Okay, you are welcome to our next series. And so this is going to be another short series where we just talk about some things. Now, in this series, I'm going to be talking about some faulty foundations in family, or what I would like to call family rocky foundation. As in when the foundation a child grows up is not very smooth. You see, all of the things we talk about in relationship and in marriage, how some people have turned out to become the devil in the marriage or in the relationship, or they have become something very terrible in the relationship. Most of this is as a result of how they were raised, how they were brought up. And so we are going to, you know, iron this or talked about this in this series. And for today, what we are going to be looking at is extreme discipline. Yes, it is good to discipline a child when they, go astray. But the truth is that um, in this case of what we want to talk about, some people have gone overboard, and that's why I titled it Extreme Discipline. So I will talk about how it is expressed, which is the expression. Then we'll talk about the causes, which is the causes from the parents themselves, how and then we'll talk about the effect, that is what the resultant effect on the children. So let's talk about the expression. How are these things expressed, or how do you see the manifestation of these things at home? The extreme discipline. One is verbal abuse. Some people, some parents can abuse the children for almost anything. Why for me, I don't even condone verbal abuse of any sort. But some parents, you see them for any little offense the children commit, they call them all sort of names: idiot, stupid, animal, and all kinds of things, foolish, and all those things. And you expect that child to be whole. You are damaging the mental capacity of that child. You are damaging that emotional capacity. You are damaging this child internally by those verbal abuses. Another thing is regular or extreme beating. Some parents beat their children as if they were beating armed robbers, as if they were beating, somebody who committed one heinous crime on the streets. They beat their children extremely, and some of them don't forgive for anything. Every little offense a child does, it must be beaten. That's why most times you see children who are raised in the barracks, you see some of them, they turn out to be nuisance in the society. Because some of them, if you see the way the parents beat them, they will tie their legs, tie their hands, sometimes tie them to the ceiling fan, on the ceiling fan, and they are flogging them with all kinds of whips, all kinds of sticks, all kinds of things, using their hands, using their legs to beat a child for the offense that the child commits. These are extreme discipline. Another thing is dangerous punishment. There are some punishment that are just very risky and can push a child to the corner, push a child to do something else. Some parents will starve their children because of the offense they commit in their house. They will not give them food to eat. Sometimes a whole day, sometimes even till the next day. Some parents will push the child out of the house and will not allow the child to sleep at home. And some children will find themselves sleeping in market squares, by the street, or in dangerous places. Some have even been raped, some girls, as a result of these things. And so dangerous punishments. Some others is criticism. You see parents criticizing their children. You are not, maybe because of the mental, intellectual capacity of the child. They don't understand that some children may not be good with, all of these book, read and write issue. They may be good with, crafts or something else. Or maybe something that they are not ready to look inward to see which area this child is there. They have their way of assessing their children. And when the child doesn't match up, doesn't meet up to that criteria, it is all about criticism, Some of them, some parents show dislike or favoritism for children. They prefer one to the other, either because of the gender or because of what this child is doing over the other child. These are various ways that this extreme discipline expresses itself in the family. Now, what are the causes? Now, from parents, when the parents do all these things, why do the parents themselves, let's even look at why the parents themselves will even do these things. Because sometimes you may be a product of some of these things I've mentioned, and you're always blaming your parents, you're always abusing your parents, you're always regretting that you have such parents. But before we begin to, castigate them and all of that, let's even see the causes so that you can even avoid it. Some of these parents are just repeating the patterns in which they were raised. That's the same way their parents raised them. They don't know any better. And so they replicate the same thing. Another thing is unhealed hurts. Some people have these hurts within that have not been healed. Something happened. They are offended, they are hurt, they are bitter, and they bottle it. Because they have not been healed, because they don't know how to vent this thing out. Whenever they are angry with their children, who in most cases are the most vulnerable around them, they just lash it on them. So unhealed hurts. And then some other cases is parents, because of their preference. Some parents who are looking, for instance, some parents prefer male children than female. Some prefer female children. So whichever gender they prefer. In some cases, like in Nigeria and Africa, you see that when a woman gives birth to female, and all of that, the man begins to misbehave and begins to act like, or begin to say things like, you want to kill my family name. That's why you're always giving birth. You're a witch. You don't want my family name to continue. Of course, you can tell that it's ignorant from the man, because he would have known that when he contribute X chromosomes with the woman's womb, it will give you, the gender or the Y chromosome, whichever chromosome that comes from the man. That's not the topic for today. We can talk about that some other day. But then you see that the man in this case begin to hate on the woman, and that hate transfers to the children. And in some cases, some people prefer, female children, and then the woman is giving birth to male children, and then they begin to hate on the children and do some of these things that we have talked about. Begin to criticize the children, begin to give them extreme discipline, abuse them verbally, and all of that. So the preference of the children, sometimes the parents are like, oh, this child is too dull, and because of that, as long as that child doesn't match their preference, you see them behaving these, these funny ways that we talk about. And then another thing is ignorance or religious inclination. Ignorance, when people don't know any better, you don't expect them to do better. And then there are some people that belong to some religious where violence is like the order of the day. And so because they be orientated with violence, so when the children, you know, commit offense or misbehave, they use the same orientation that they've been given on the children in the name of trying to raise them, to be the proper children they're supposed to be. They just leash up violence on the children, and they think it's discipline for training. No. So these are some of the causes that result to some of these extreme discipline we have talked about. Now let's talk about the effects. When a child is raised from this kind of home, when a child is a product of this kind of family, this kind of parents, what do you expect this child to be? What will be the effect? What will be the result of this? You see, lack of confidence. That's why some people are never confident of themselves. What they can do, what they cannot do, they just don't have that confidence in themselves because of the way they were raised. And then in another way is pessimist. They become pessimists. They never believe anything positive. Their case is like, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Because the way they were raised, their parents never give them this level of positivity. And so you don't expect them to just have it. They just live life thinking that everything is all on the negative side. And then another thing is repeating pattern. When children are raised this way, it becomes a norm for them. And so they will replicate the same thing. And that's why when you see some parents beating their children and you come in to intervene, they will tell you that, if you even know the way my parents raised us up, the kind of punishment they give to us, you can see that they are just replicating the pattern in which they were raised. And then the other thing we'll talk about in the effect is that these children grow up to become unlovable. They don't know how to receive love and they don't know how to love. And so it affects them even in their relationship, in their families, in their marriages, even with people around them. They don't even know how to build healthy relationship. They were never loved. And so they don't know what is love. And that's why you see some ladies who are in relationship or some married women, they tell you that if their spouse doesn't beat them, it shows that doesn't love them. Because that's how they were raised. What to them is love is about extreme discipline. And so they just see it as part of love. And so you try to separate and put peace, and tomorrow you see them fighting again, and you are wondering what is wrong. Because that's the way they were raised, and they believe that it is part of love. And then you see all these them having regular, broken relationships here and there. And tomorrow they run from places to places seeking for help. Whereas it is all about their orientation. If you can understand these patterns and then you can begin to unlearn the things you've learned and begin to learn something new, it will go a whole way, a long way to build up healthy families in the society. Thank you very much.